Is there a supplementary question? Honorable Njikelana.
Asibonge Amalala. Asibonge Msholozi. May the President further share with us as to how the government intends mobilizing BRICS partnership to support the successful implementation of the African agenda, taking into account the legacy built in the past 50 years and the intention to mold the Vision 2063 for Africa. Ngamala sendithatha ukuthi busoshilo la empendulweni yakho ukuthi as African leaders eThekwini kwi-BRICS Summit nikhe nahlangana yiloko kusekuthunuka kakhulu ukuthi ke sizwe ukuthi the BRICS partnership, how can it help on the successful implementation of the African agenda? Furthermore, I ask this because South Africa needs to appreciate that we as South Africans in particular, we need to appreciate the visionary prowess of the ANC government. If one considers the history of the ANC in contributing to the founding of OAU itself in 1963, and the role that is expected of the very ANC government in the formulation of Vision 2063 for Africa.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Certainly, South Africans, through the ANC, contributed in the formation of the OAU. Those who are old enough, they'll remember that there were some organizations that were talking about the challenges of the continent, one of them being PAFMECA, which with the participation of South Africa and other countries in the region here, changed the name to PAFMEXA. And it were people belonging to a number of organizations that met to discuss the matter. And we were there, we made a contribution. That, of course, would have been informed by the very founders of the ANC, particularly in the person of Dr. Pixley Gaseme, who wrote a very historic essay about Africa's future, including its economic future, its unity, its everything. So to us as South Africans, it has not been a new thing that we participate in efforts to ensure that Africa deals with its challenges. I'm sure those who have read that essay will realize that from the onset, our view about Africa was very clear. And therefore, the Pan-Africanism that is talked about today, we're part of it. That is why, in the relations that we form today, whether we are in G20 or BRICS or IPSA or whatever formation, uppermost in our minds is how will this relationship enhance our being, not just as a country, but as a continent. How this will contribute to the economic development of our continent. Whenever we take part in these forums, we raise the issue of Africa, in addition of raising our own bilateral issues. And therefore, when we became part of BRICS, when we began to look at Africa, we were very clear that our membership in BRICS must benefit the continent. And therefore, when we were to host the BRICS in South Africa, to us this was an important occasion to actualize that thinking. particularly because Africa historically has been bypassed by many developments and disadvantaged by many. We have a history that I think we're all aware of, but we've reached a point where we feel we must be part of reshaping the global economic landscape, whether political or economical. To actualize that, we felt it was important that as the BRICS was meeting in South Africa, we must involve the African countries. And that's why we introduced that in the sidelines of BRICS, we must have this African BRICS retreat, and therefore specifically invited key leaders in the continent in terms of what they do. For an example, the chairperson of the AU Commission, the chairpersons of regional economies in the continent, as well as the head of NEPAD, plus other heads of states that we believed they will make a contribution in that interaction. And indeed, they welcomed this enthusiastically, and it took place here. We had a very successful meeting with BRICS leaders and the African leaders. For the first time, the African leaders prepared a presentation on behalf of the continent, not on behalf of individual countries, to BRICS, and made a very formidable case, which was responded to by BRICS very positively. In fact, there are many processes that are going between BRICS and African countries to implement those agreements. Some of the BRICS countries, as they went back, they communicated that they were in fact looking at the resolutions and how they're going to be implemented insofar as this new partnership that they have. So we believe that that BRICS interaction was absolutely crucial. As we are talking, for an example, some of the BRICS countries who are part of G20 have said whenever they host G20, they will also invite the African key leaders to come and participate in those kind of interactions. I think that indicates what is it that we are talking about when we say we needed to work together. But what has been important to make us succeed in this is because African countries have moved away from seeing themselves as individual countries in many respects. They have accepted the fact that they've got to work together as a continent. They've got specific structures that they work with, but what has been important has been the realization that without us working together in the form of what I was saying here, the intra-trade within and among African countries, we cannot succeed to be a continent that can stand on its own. This is no longer a debate. There has been an agreement that we need to work together. And therefore, the process of integrating the economic regions has in fact started. 3 of these have come together with a huge population that is almost like half of the continent. And the work continues to try to bring together the African countries. We've also realized that these borders that were created by colonialists in the form in which they are not helping. So the discussion of how do we ease the border control, in fact, has been discussed and agreed. Part of the program, the massive infrastructure program, addresses that issue very seriously. I think for the first time, when we speak as an African continent to other countries or partners, we were just in Japan a few weeks ago, we speak about us and our infrastructure, that therefore they should come and participate. In other words, do business with us. I think that tells the story that therefore the Vision 2063 is a vision that we are going to be working on from now as a unit, as a continent, as a continent that understands that our interests cannot be separated. We've got to work together to ensure that we secure the continent, we are able to stand independent, we are able to develop, we are able to make Africa a continent that will take its place among other continents as a continent that can offer something. So that is what we are trying to do, and I think we are making good progress. Thank you.
I thank the Honorable President.